All right. I want to thank everybody for coming out this afternoon to talk about an issue that I think caught all of us by surprise in our community. And with me today is Councilmember Arias, as well as Phil Sky, who oversees our homeless and housing efforts in the city of Fresno. I also just finished up a lengthy meeting with Joe Prado from the county, who is going to be assisting with this, and we are going to be coordinating efforts with the county of Fresno as we deal with the asylum seekers that showed up in our city this week. Here's what we know at this point in time, is that it appears on Saturday that several individuals, as many as 16, showed up in the city of Fresno on a bus, and that the bus, or at least these individuals, went to the Poverello house, which actually the rescue mission who oversees the sprung structures next to the Poverello house. It is a warming center, and these folks showed up at that location and were taken in. There was no indication at the time, nor was there any inquiry made by the mission that these folks were from Venezuela or that they were asylum seekers, simply that they were folks in our community seeking shelter to get out of the elements. Last night, the city learned at some point in time that there was a bus that did show up in Fresno, a Greyhound bus that was occupied by a number of these folks, and again, we did not know what date that was. What we do know is that there's about 16 people that have showed up in Fresno, and that is 3 families, as well as four families, a total of 3 children. And then we have some other couples and 6 males, but a total of 16 people. When we learned of this last night, Councilmember Arias made arrangements for these folks to stay at the La Quinta Hotel, and that is where they are at presently. We have been in contact with Immigration Services. We have attorneys that have been here today meeting with the families and trying to find out what their circumstances is, whether or not they have a scheduled hearing date in El Paso, where ultimately came from. But we do know that they originally were in El Paso. They were placed on a bus, and they were given options as to what city they wanted to go to, and they ultimately chose Denver. They went to Denver, and once they got to Denver, somehow, some way, they were bused back to California, and according to them, many of them thought they were going to Indio, but they ended up in Fresno. And so we do not know how that happened, but we do know that they ultimately were El Paso to Denver to Fresno. We are currently working with UCSF so that medical screenings can be done with those that have come here. I understand there's a very small child that has some issues with asthma, and we're making sure that there's a medical screening taking place for that child. And we're also going to be, in the morning, the county is making arrangements for social services to meet with all 16 of the folks that are here, and there'll be a determination as to what occurs after that. These are not refugees. These are asylum seekers. These are people who have fled their country for whatever reason. They have not been established yet legally as refugees. And what we are doing in the city of Fresno is somewhat of a triage. And that is to make sure that they have their health needs met, to make sure that they have food, some temporary shelter, and services provided to them so that we can prepare them for their hearing dates in El Paso as established by immigration. And with that, we'll open it up to any questions you might have at this point. Councilman Arias may have some insights that I don't have from last night, but I think that pretty much covers it.
The only correction is 4 kids.
4 kids, I'm sorry, yeah.
Mayor, do we know how they got from El Paso
Paso to Denver to Fresno. Who was providing the transportation?
Greyhound.
Yeah, they were on Greyhound buses when they got to Fresno. And we did reach out to Governor Abbott's office last night to find out if, in fact, there was a direct transportation from Texas to Fresno. We were told at that time that Fresno was not one of their destination cities that they were sending people to. Destination cities were New York, Denver, Chicago, and there may have been one more, but Fresno was not one of those cities. But when they got to Denver, somehow they ended up getting sent to Fresno. And again, some of them were under the impression that they were going to be sent to Indio, California.
And was it a government organization or an NGO that provided the tickets from Texas to Denver?
Do you know?
Yes. What the asylum seekers have confirmed is when they were released from the Department of Immigration with their court date and granted their asylum entrance, that they were given 3 options: to get on a bus and go to Chicago, New York, or Denver, Colorado, and that the Texas government paid for that bus ticket. When they arrived to Denver, Colorado, the organization that was serving them provided them the ticket to California. So they have been provided their tickets either by the state or by the NGO serving them.
But they left from the bus on their own accord. They weren't forced. They weren't kidnapped.
I can't speak to that because we have not asked those questions of them. That's all we know is the route that they chose.
And you know what we do know at this point, we don't have the legal ability to take these 16 people and put them on a bus against their will and ship them to another city. We do not have that authority according to our city attorney's office. However, we can, with their permission, facilitate the transportation of those folks back to El Paso. And that is our desire. We would like to see them transported back to where there is services that they can receive, and certainly to be able to go through the process of meeting their hearing dates.